Hello everyone. Today the topic for the discussion would be standard of practice, popularly known as SOP, standard of practice. What exactly is we will be talking about it. So one of the important requirement of standard of practice is it will deliver a good quality or a desired quality of the finished product or the services that we are talking around of. It will give me clear, precise expectation from the customer point of view. It will tell clear, precise definition from the company's point of view. So SOP will mean quality system. A standard of practice is a document which describes the regular recurring operation relevant to the quality of the operation. So it is basically a regular feature which ensures a definitive product and expected quality time and again, irrespective of the geographic location that we are talking about. The purpose of SOP is to carry out operation always correctly and always in identical fashion. That means I will get the definite success as far as customer satisfaction is concerned. So, is SOP discriminatory? Is it differential? Does it vary from time to time, place to place? What does it really do? Believe me or not, standard of practice or standard of procedures protects both the and the client. Now, workers who follow established standards of practice or procedures can have very big confidence on their shoulder because they are not deviating, they're actually following the rules of the book. So, in case of any mishaps, they will be backed by their managers, by their superiors, by the leadership because they have followed the rule book to the brim. This means there are less chances of them losing a case in the courts or very any litigation actually been implied upon them. So this is very protective about the workers provided they follow the SOP mindfully. Now, talking about SOP, does it always protect only the organization, only the employee? Definitely not. SOP also ensures quality product, quality service to its client. Client are entitled to consistent service delivery based on established and accepted procedures, not on anyone's workers' personal values or probably from one geographic location to another geographic location. Wherever you go, the quality is immaterial, is identical, is non negotiable. That is how SOP protects the client. To ensure SOP is presented in most usable format, it is necessary to be updated. When I say updated, it has to be notified to the top management and the employees altogether. This that means the layout becomes much more easier and the customers are always there to reap the benefits. The decision to do so is based on the feedback from both the field users and management. So how do we go around it? First and foremost thing, we need to understand the procedural steps and consideration that goes on to decision making. Remember, there is something called procedural steps and there is something called practice guidance. Now, this is must. Procedural steps are must activities that are required as a part of the task. So you have to follow step one, then step two, then step three, then step four, and so on as prescribed. So, no step, you cannot do step three and step five, you cannot jump the step four. You have to do it identical fashion, and then only the quality product will come out, then only the service will matter. So, then, if this is procedural step, what is practice guidance? Now, practice guidance is an option meant to the workers or the employees or the staff wherein they might enact it or they might not enact it. They have to judge their intelligence on a case to case basis. Remember, practice guidelines include but definitely isn't limited to information related to completing the steps, consideration the worker should evaluate as a part of decision making, or contingency that may arise based on case specific circumstances. All workers and supervisors are required to follow the instruction contained in standard of practice, regardless of whether or not the instruction are classified as procedural or practice guidance. Now, definitely it is desired that you follow both procedural and practice guidance, but imperative to follow procedural. Practice guidance remain optional. I will let you know in the subsequent, wherein I'll take an example of a courier company. Now, what does the courier company says? It says the procedures. Mind you, I'm talking about only about the procedures. You have to place the content in the box, protect the fragile items, seal the box with adhesive, any adhesive, mention the address where it has to be parceled, add appropriate postage or the monetary usage that is required, and then probably mail it. So this is the 6 steps that you need to go around it. But then if this is the procedure, we need to debate what is the practice guidance that I've been talking about being optional. Now, practice guidance, the worker sees it's a fragile item. Now, this needs to be wrapped by bubble or by newspaper. It is either with air bubble wrap that you got to do it, or newspaper. So this gives extra protection to the fragile item. Postage will depend on the weight of the package. Definitely, yes, you cannot put in extra postage or lesser, fewer postage, because your courier is going to be sent into a different destination, and it will be again be checked and reviewed. If you are toying up with the postage value, things are going to go wrong on your end. So, procedure and SOPs constitute the reference for crew standardization, for providing the absolutely, definitely confident and happy working environment required for enhanced and efficient communication and coordination. This is a must to ensure effective compliance with published procedures, the SOPs. It is important to understand why pilots intentionally or inadvertently deviate. Talking about pilots, I am going to give you an example or a case about why the airline accident is going to happen in the subsequent slide. Just wait around it. In most cases of deviation, the procedure that was followed in place of the correct one seems to be appropriate, considered whatever the information are available, whatever the data sets are flowing to it. So we'll talk about the procedures and SOPs. First purpose of procedure and standard of practice is to establish a common action project. Now that is one very true. Establish a common action project, being safety first. Reduce ambiguities or errors. Should not be any confusion between any of the partners or the organizations or the employees. Everybody should be clear of the objective. Everybody should be clear of the procedure. Everybody should know the SOP by heart. So, what does it mean? It means confidence and camaraderie between them in terms of better task sharing, in terms of having a good communication with all the crew. So that if there is a good communication, a good brotherly feeling, we will reduce the workload. Then comes the facilitating, mastering the actions and the error. Things goes wrong. Who needs to be intimated? How do you go around following it? This is very important. It is like your backup plan. Contribute to the situational awareness. Remember, situations are dynamic. Situations change from time to time. At times in a airline industry, it might be a mechanical error. It can be a human error. It can be a crew error. It can even be the passenger's error. Perhaps they might be behaving erratically. So situation keeps on changes, and if possible, we need to reduce the conflicts. Any conflicts or any confusion. If I said ambiguities, it's all about confusion that may arise. You should guarantee a better task sharing. People should know what will happen in case if there are certain anomalies that is taking place. How do you rectify them? If rectification is possible, please go ahead and do it. If not, inform your higher superiors. So, talking about the airline accident, What used to be done in earlier times, incident and accident were actually blamed to catastrophic structural engine or system failure, or simply put, bad weather, if I want to go around it, is bad luck or bad faith or anything else. So simply it was denounced that it was beyond the purview of the human mind or human control. Now this technical evolution led to catastrophic failure. All this mechanical thing, this was earlier done. At present, what we do? At present, we like what to study with it. Everything needs to be studied, and it has been found that approximately 66%, that is 2 out of 3, is a human error. Out of every 3 accidents, 2 accidents are caused by the human error. It might be anything. Probably data have flowed down, informations have been replicated, but probably the decision making has gone wrong. There was something that just did not click, and it is mostly a human error. Why does this error comes around it? It is non-adherence to procedures and SOP as a threat. Sources on human error are recorded in the black box. A number of times you must have come across it. A number of times everything is a black box, everything has been recorded, all data have been recorded. LOSA is line operation safety audits. Report and confirm the rise of procedural errors. People do not follow the procedures. As a result, we meet with an airline accident. Remember, still, you have greater chance of meeting an accident in the road or on the road than on the or in the air altogether. So it is quite safe, relatively safe, to take airline as a mode of transport. Now, what happens as non-adherence to procedure? Where does it goes wrong? If you look into it, 66 or 69% is crew problem. It is the manpower, it is the employee, it is the captain, it is the crew. Then comes aircraft. Then comes environment or atmosphere. Then we have the power plant or plugs or aerodrome, and maintenance or air traffic control is 5%, wherein wrong intimation has been taken. As a result, there might have been a collisions, or there might have been any confusion. As a result, people have overshot the runway and so on and so forth. So this is just a published data that I am presenting in front of you. 69% it is the fault of the crew. 42% the aircraft might be faulty, might be old, might be defunct. Weather plays havoc in the 35% of the time. Power plant, probably something to do with fuel, something to do with the electricity in the aeroplane. Things goes wrong. In the aerodrome, there was not proper checking during before the flight took off. The airplane was not health certified or flight certified. There is something wrong with the maintenance, and it was not notified, or they have notified it, but it was never got rectified. We have air traffic control, who also contribute to the 5% of the time for these accidents. And this, what I'm talking about, this is all about non-adherence. Why don't you do it? Follow it up and we'll comment. So LOSA, so line operation safety audit says the non-compliance is the reason for 54% of the time. You look at it, 54. Procedural error is 29%, as low as 29%. Communication is 6, proficiency is 5, and decision is 6. So you look at the percent frequency on x-axis. If you look into it, it is all about non-compliance. Approximately half of the accident is because you don't follow the SOPs, or at the wrong time you take the wrong procedure altogether. That constitute approximately 75 80% of the accident that comes around. So what about the consequences that we go around? The rise of non-procedural compliance. Procedures are being increasingly written to shape crew behavior. We are not only having a handbook, a procedural book, but important information are also there pasted on the dashboard. Important information are pasted at vital signs of when you take an entry, so that it keeps on reminding you what is safe and what is not safe. Hard design combined with a soft procedural defense encourage deviations. The overabundance of SOPs mostly stem from the need to constantly change habits and policy. Now, what is habits and policy? The aeroplane might be changing certain gears, certain lever function from left hand side to right hand side. Something has to be notified, something has been voice activated, and so on and so forth. So constant need to adapt is the thing. The need to increase capacity, efficiency of an operation, wherein probably earlier times it used to be three crew member, now it is two crew member, which is a must, and so on and so forth. Why are we doing it? Because we want to make the operation efficient, because we want to increase the capacity of the passengers. The need to manage an increasingly complex environment. Look at it during in the airport, the number of flight are taking and landing almost on an identical time space. There is hardly a gap of 5 minutes, 6 minutes at the busiest of the airport. And believe me or not, not a single accident happened even in the busiest of the airport. That means it is a complex environment which has been managed very efficiently. So understanding non-compliance can be done in a variety of angles. What are they? They are cognitive or mental. They are behavioral. They are ergonomic. Ergonomic is your eye, hand, or limb combination. How do you go around it? Safety management. And last but not least is the data analysis. How do you read the data? How do you understand what the data is trying to say to you? If you misread and probably take a wrong decision thereby. So types of procedural non-adherence, there are only three types. One is a design, next is training, and the operation. So no perception of the relevant information is the input point. You don't have an idea how the fuel has been injected, or pattern, there is a mismatch in information. What has been displayed on the dashboard and what you understand altogether, and how the plane is working, aeroplane is working, there might be completely different. There might be something wrong with the left side of the engine, and the plane might say something on the right side of the engine is doing mischief. No, that the dashboard says, and there is a pattern mismatch. Procedural design, input and interpretation. Procedural experience and training, it is all about the pilot's training. It is all about the pilot experiences, how many number of hours that he has flown the flight. Cultural aspect, influencing factor, definitely yes, we have those identical or religious or superstitious figure that comes into play. Personality aspects, attitude, influencing factors. What are personality aspects? As a member, as a crew member, as a pilot, as anybody, at the end of the day, we are all human beings. As a human being, we all have emotion, and not all days are identical. There are days when we are in good mood, chirpy mood, happy mood, and then there are days where we are extremely stressed. Now this personality aspect can have an impact onto the accidental situation. So this is the influential factors. We talk about situational factors too. Probably the fuel is going down, probably there's a leakage on the plane, probably there are certain antisocial elements on the plane, and so on and so forth. So we have to make decision making, CRA, awareness and attention management. Now this is all about design, training, and operation. With this type of non-procedural thing, if you can eliminate those things, probably you are into the remedial action. So, eight types of procedural non-adherence. What are the procedural thing? Number one is a routine. See, I'll tell you the four types on performance level and four types on operational taxonomy or operational level, if you want to talk about it. Now, one is a routine violation. Common practice. You will always think that the aircraft is airworthy. Common practice, and you at times probably don't check the mandatory requirement. Then comes the optimization violation. When it comes, when a plane has been flown for a continuous number of hours, probably for 3 4 5 days at a stretch, at the end of the day the machine breaks down. You need to give it relevant rest. If this has not been taken care for, the optimization violation take place. Then comes the situational violation, probably because of the weather, probably because of the ambience in the within the aeroplane, and so on and so forth. We have the exceptional violation also. It is unprecedented circumstances that comes around it. Probably your aeroplane is under threat from certain other external exigencies, and so on and so forth. Then the four types of operational non-compliance or operational taxonomy, where it hurts the most. One is a procedural error, which is correct intentional or incorrect executional, where you find the error with the plane but probably don't diagnose it, don't take a remedial action. Then comes the communication error. Now, where communication error might be completely language based. Remember, most of the international airlines are moving from cross border from one country to another country, where not everybody is proficient in English or the other languages that they are adhered to. So there might be some sort of communication problem that might take place between the air traffic control and the crew member. Then come proficiency errors, insufficient knowledge, and well. Now, this is you are not adequately trained or adequately experienced to handle a particular situation. Last but not the least is the decision errors that the human being end up making. This actually includes the risk. So from machine minding to decision making. Now, this is basically a two-stage to three-stage process. Essentially, first is wave of recognition, then comes the wave of execution, but between this is the wave of decision making. So please remember, first and foremost thing would be a wave of recognition, wherein you take a perception of warnings, interpretation by crew. You need to understand, is it going right or is it going wrong? So what does it mean? Once you have recognized it, you go about an execution. The execution is all about following the SOPs, be it specification, be it the execution, and so on and so forth. But there is also the third wave of decision making, understanding how to react, understanding how to execute or probably formulate the intention. What about so we come into another example in terms of a blood bank. Now, what is a blood bank issue? The blood bank has a simple issue of scoping. Let's say this is how do we write an SOP altogether? I've just given you an example where the purpose has been mentioned, the scope has been mentioned, the responsibility, the procedures, the physician, you're collecting a bank, the physician needs to select screen donors, and so on. So I'm just giving you how SOP, standard operating procedures of an blood bank. So this is how we write it: purpose, scope, responsibility, procedure. What are the steps? And the earlier steps I showed you about the courier company, there were 6 steps. Out here it was 7, and the related resources. Now this can be for your references that you did. So what is the conclusion? Conclusion for a pilot is to recognize recognitive process in deployment in terms of procedures which may be associated with any errors. So effective crew apply judgment to the decision making. So you have the moment of seriousness or moment of assumption where you have to take the right step at the right moment. So pilots natural risk calculation strategies help them to distinguish consequential error from the benign one, from the good one. So this needs to be taken from what are my bad errors. So if you have options and certain option doesn't seem, you are not very sure about the correct answer, but certain option seems out of the world, so it is better to eliminate those options than choose probably the closest to option on which you want to decide upon it. It is like a multiple choice question that we come across it. How do we address a multiple choice question? So applying procedures can be repetitive, definitely sequential, under time pressure, heuristic pressure, and effective crews avoid rush reaction if possible. The challenge in the future is to help in decision aids. Now, how do you help in decision aid? By giving you appropriately the right picture, the right data that comes around it. Remember, most of the pilot, most of the crew learn from their experiences. These procedures and SOPs should enable pilot to exercise discerning and good decision making. There is an enlarged role of pilot to be trained in making decision. Why the pilot is not only flying a few million or billion rupees of property in terms of aircraft, but also few hundred lives, human lives that we are talking around it. So we are talking about accuracy and simplicity. We don't want to complicate things. Accuracy and simplicity for standards of procedures. Thank you.